This is going to be a brief talk, and just so that everyone is on the same page, this is not supposed to be like a comprehensive list of things that make someone a good team leader. I'm sure many of us in our leadership positions do things that are not here, and we are good team leaders. The list that I'm putting together here is part of my experience, also things that I've read, things that I've seen. Let me switch to the next slide. And feel free to ask any questions or comments if you have any during the talk. Let's get started. First of all, as a team leader, you should consider that your team is also your project, as many of us already know this, if not all of us. And as a leader, you should care about people. I remember that when I was starting my consultant career, I attended one like a party with people from work, and I didn't know anyone. And that time, my manager approached me and started making conversation with me. And that's one thing that I noticed, that my manager cared about me, not knowing anyone still in the company, and wanting to wanted me to feel like a part of the team. Also, if you are a leader or a team leader, the people are also your work. If you help people grow, you also grow. This is something that I've mentioned a couple of times before. Think about it this way: someone in the company knows, or sorry, not knows, someone in the company that is part of your team grows, and that means that you can, as a team lead, you can probably jump to the next position in the company ladder, right? Like, why? Because you're helping people grow. That means that someone can potentially replace you in your job, right? And that way you can switch to the next position. Also, if a developer, let's say, complains or has concerns, I think concerns is a better word, has concerns about other developer, you should talk to the second developer about it. And let me use an example with like Alice and Bob, right? Everybody that is a developer knows Alice and Bob, A and B, the typical example that comes in the books. If Alice complains about, has a concern about Bob, you should talk to Bob about it, because the sooner that Bob is aware that there's an issue with his performance or something is going on, the better. And also, as a team leader, you shouldn't do that. You should avoid doing the job of your teammates, of your team. Your job usually is to be the facilitator, right? Now, granted, sometimes we have to do development or programming tasks, but those are assigned to certain developers. So we shouldn't take tasks that some of our teammates couldn't complete, because we're kind of covering for them, and and that means that they have areas of improvement, and we should help them like attack or complete those areas so that they can grow. How do you lead your team? This is the next slide. How do you lead your team? Leadership should be about letting the developers also learn on their own. Yeah, they sometimes look up to their managers. Let me close the slide very quickly. Okay. Yeah, distractions. Sometimes developers look up to their team leads for guidance, but we should also let them learn on their own. And we should share everything. That means that conveys over communication, which I think is really good. because it allows employee engagement. And we should keep in mind that we should not over communicate in a way that affects morale. For example, sometimes clients, there are issues with clients, right? That happens in most projects. So sometimes it's not a good idea to over communicate issues that are happening with the client, because that affects morale. When I say over communication, I mean over communicate requirements, meetings, everything that doesn't affect the morale. And also we should talk about core values with our team, and understand what they are looking for and explain and help them with their growth. This means also setting up clear expectations and what specify or make it clear what we expect from them most of the time. I remember here that one of my first managers, and this is just an example, he told me when we met, and I was saying that you should do this, right? Just letting you know part of my experience. He told me we should agree most of the time, and that kind of set the bar for how I should interact with him. He made it clear that we should try to be in the same page, and it was okay to have disagreements and that we could talk about them, but at the same time, for us to work together, we should be on the same page most of the time. Next slide. Same thing. How do you lead your team? You should also create customer focus. What do I mean by this? Making all your decisions based on the customer, and make sure that the team knows that this is happening. For example, any decision should be focused on user experience, validations, the best experience for the client. And this is important because, well, we are a customer-focused company. Also, we should seek the personal improvement of your team members. And I already mentioned this, but this time I want to give an example. For example, suggesting that our team members take certifications, right? Take the exams and achieve certifications. And I know in this meeting, there's people that are not really developers, but I'm sure that you can translate this into your own domain. For example, people from the talent team, right? And I'm just guessing here, but you can ask people to read books and, seek personal improvements of your team members. Also, spread belief in your goals by talking as if success is guaranteed. For example, instead of saying, I will try to do this, say, I will. That conveys also accountability. And finally, you should ask the consultants, your team members, right, what they would like to work on. Even if it's just to get to know them, caring about them this way helps or allows them to feel more involved. Maybe in a specific time when you ask them what they would like to work on, that might not be possible, what they pick, but maybe next time it will. But also it helps you get to know them and what their goals are, what they like to do, right? Maybe I'm sure that some of us don't like working with stored procedures, like me, but other people do like that. And that way you can assign tasks based on what people enjoy doing. Next slide. Same thing, same topic. How do you lead your team? It's also important to interact with your team and ask them, for example, things like, how do you think we can improve the project, right? This also creates a sense of connection with your team members. The next bullet point is important. You gain trust by giving trust. And I feel this is something that we do very well in this company. Next bullet is giving team members the decision-making authority. How do you get to allowing someone in your team to make decisions? By empowering them. How do you empower them? By over communicating requirements, by allowing them to estimate tasks, or by asking about their opinion about some of the things that I already asked about, like what do they like to do, where do they want to be in 5 years. And as you all know, we have the mentorship program, but that would be separate from what I'm talking about. In this case, we are focusing on what we do as team leads. And what would be the opposite of giving team members decision-making authority? Well, it would be a team member constantly asking you questions, which is absolutely fine, right? We are here to help, but we also want them to decide on their own. The more, not individual, but the more they can work on their own, the better. And finally, this is something that I briefly talked in a previous slide. This is something that a manager told me. I kind of agree with it. I think it's a good way to see things sometimes. And it's that you should seek to replace yourself, right? You should seek to replace yourself as a team lead. Doesn't mean that you will get replaced at all. That's not what it means. It just means that you are allowing other people to grow, to do the things that you do. If it's either cloud development or anything that we do in this company, which is like a lot of things. This is a different topic, engaging team members. There's something that I heard, I think in LinkedIn. People join companies, but they leave bosses. And this is really interesting. And as a lead, for example, as a team lead, you are responsible for your team members and your teammates' engagement in the project. You can also engage team members by allowing them to grow. And I know I talked about this before, but I want to talk a little more about this. Ask yourself, do you feel the team members are learning? Now, we as developers, consultants, we like learning. Now, it doesn't mean that we learn one new thing every day. Maybe some people do, right? But we like learning new things. We like using the latest technologies, right? And every now and then, and this gives us a sense of accomplishment, learning new skills. So this is important for engaging team members. How do you engage team members? Another option would be giving them lots of autonomy. What would be the opposite of this? Someone watching over our shoulders all the time. Now, this is not something that we do in this company at all. And translating that, like someone watching over our shoulder all the time, translating that into remote work, because that can happen, right, with remote, would be, would be someone, in this case, our team lead, asking us constantly about our progress, because they need to be aware of what's going on. And again, I know this is not something we do in this company, but it's important to keep in mind that we should continue giving employees your team members lots of autonomy. And finally, for this slide, acknowledgement is important. For example, when someone tells me that I did a great job in something, right, it makes me want to do that again, right? So it's important when someone does a great job, or when someone goes the extra mile, which again, that's something that happens in this company a lot. As you know, we have a shout outs channel. It's important to acknowledge the team, your team members. And mastery and purpose are two important concepts, which I'm just going to mention. I won't cover them, but having a sense of mastery, that we are good at something, is good for engaging us as team members, and your team as team members, and having a purpose. And as you know, our purpose in this company, we have a vision, and that's our purpose. Next topic is recognition. And it's kind of related to the one in the second to last slide that I mentioned. Recognition is important. We should ask every now and then, do my team members feel appreciated, and do they feel their ideas count? And when someone achieves a goal, we should acknowledge that behavior. And engage. Don't assume that all consultants or all people want to grow or want to be an expert in a certain topic. You should ask them. Maybe they have other topics or things that that engage them in a project. Like, for example, someone might like having contact with the client, and that would be important to know. You can include your team members in meetings, even if it's just as listeners, right? So it's important to ask your team member and get to know your team members. And there's something else, something called the Pygmalion effect. It's when our belief, and this is more like behavioral sciences, but this is something that I heard in a training class that I attended a few years ago about leadership. It's when our belief in another person's potential brings that potential to life. This is kind of proven that it can happen. So it's something good to consider when we talk to our team members or when we assign tasks to our team members. The next topic about being a good team leader is about sharing information. Some ways, to me, this is an important topic, and some ways, as you all know, to share information are, for example, a wiki or Confluence. You can also record videos for training purposes. I know nobody likes to repeat themselves. We even in software development, as you know, we have a what is it called? It's dry. I don't know, like an acronym. I think it's called an acronym. Dry. Don't repeat yourself, right? So it's good to record videos for training purposes. Make sure you document everything and make sure you do cross-training, which are the topics that I briefly talked about in a previous talk. We're almost done. It's as I said, it's going to be a short meeting. And when you have to share feedback as a good team leader, going back to the initial topic of this presentation, when you have to share feedback, you should tell it like it is, right? And let's try not to soften the blow, because sometimes it makes it sometimes it makes it less clear. There's something called the feedback sandwich, which I think I'm covering in the next slide. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. And keep in mind that your team members are your partners, not our subordinates, which this is one other thing that we do very well in this company, amongst other things. In order to give feedback, something that I've seen is that it's a good idea to do a weekly check-in with each team member, especially when you're getting to know them, right? I don't feel that this is something that we should do all the time, but it's a good idea. I would recommend that you should consider this in case you're not already doing it when you get to interact with a new team member. This way, I feel that the onboarding could be faster, and also give immediate and direct feedback to your team members. And the compliment sandwich, which is the next bullet, is what I was talking about, is when you say, and this is just a recommendation, right? It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. It's when you say, when you want to give like negative feedback, but you say good things at the beginning and in the end. Sometimes it can happen that sometimes the person that you are giving the feedback to kind of misses the purpose of the feedback and focuses only on the good things that you said about to them. It could be something like, you did a great job last sprint, but I think that you should, and then the feedback, right? and then you finish with, but I do like your performance. When you do things like that, the people that you give the feedback to sometimes can only focus on the good things and forget that you actually want to share some feedback, what was in the middle with them. Also, it's important to recognize great work. We already talked about this, and keep your promises, and avoid surprising a team member with late negative feedback. It should be given immediately. As with clients, nobody likes surprises, right? So we should translate that into feedback. Going to the next slide. Keep in mind that words are powerful. This is more kind of like a different topic, but as a team lead, it's important to focus on the positive. And instead of saying I will try, you should consider saying I will, in case you don't do that already. 2 more slides to go. Accountability is another important topic. It's just a fancy word for responsibility, I would say. And the important thing here is that you should, as a team lead, live up to your promises. If you say that, and you should also hold your teammates, to your team members accountable, right? If you or someone says that you're going to finish something in 2 weeks, you should do as much as you can, or the team member should do as much as you can to finish that in 2 weeks in order to be accountable. And the second bullet says that holding people accountable is about assigning responsibilities, right? But it has to be responsibilities with realistic goals. And you need to evaluate progress along the way. You need to make corrections along the way and help your team member remove obstacles. That's how we correctly hold people, team members accountable. And for someone to be accountable, either us or a team member, as you know, we must be allowed to make decisions to support our accountability. If someone tells me that I need to finish, if a client tells me that I need to finish a task in 1 day without allowing me to estimate it, which is something that doesn't happen, but I'm just giving you like an example, it's very hard for me to feel accountable. It would be different if the client asks me, when do you think you can finish this task, or how long do you think it's going to take? Which is what happens to me like all the time in the projects. That makes me feel more accountable than someone just telling me how long it should take. And for the final slide, it's good to ask. I want to reiterate that we should ask questions to our team members. For example, is the job what you expected? What skills do you feel you are not using? What do you find frustrating about your job? And are you getting all the info? For example, are you getting all the information you need to do your job effectively? These are things that can help us care about our team members. As I said, it was going to be like a very short talk. Are there any questions or comments or anything that anyone wants to share? If not, that would be it. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a good one.
Thank you, Rodolfo.
Thank you, Rodolfo. It was very helpful.
Thank you, Rodolfo.
Thank you.
Rodolfo.
Thank you.